My dad is 77 years old. He has a Facebook profile. He communicates with his buddies from the Army, his buddies that he worked with. He communicates with people he's never met before. They know what he's having for lunch. They know where he's planning on going on his next trip. And this is someone who doesn't see well, doesn't hear well, and really doesn't understand what they're doing. So think about the average client who comes in to see you. Most likely they have some technology savvy. Most likely they're under the age of 77. And most likely they have some experiences that they're sharing that are probably more exciting than my dad's. Everything you do is there. It doesn't get deleted. And the level of candor that people are willing to associate themselves with on the internet, which as we all know is the World Wide Web, it is unbelievable. It's unfathomable. The content people will put on there about their innermost thoughts, about their activities, and to not tap into this, frankly, is a misuse of your time and your client's money. One of the things I've read recently is the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, which is by far one of the leading groups of lawyers in this country who practice primarily in family law, has said 90% of them on a regular basis are researching internet and computer issues to help with their clients' cases. So whether or not it's something you do routinely, it still should be a consideration you're having. So emerging areas to find the evidence, where are we finding this evidence? In Texas, we have a lot of toll roads. And the toll tags are very, very useful. So if you have a situation where you have clients where there are tolls or where they're using a parking garage on a regular basis, those kinds of records are subpoenaable and they can be very, very, very valuable. We had a case. Mom says, well, I'm going to stay in. You have to work in the evenings. We traced on her toll tag. She was heading out 10 minutes after Dad, getting home 4 or 5 hours later, had this babysitter Dad didn't know was coming. She had a whole social life, and we were able to start pinning that down by looking at the toll records. OnStar in your vehicles, that's another point. Some things like OnStar, most of our vehicles have navigation systems, and I don't know about you guys, but when I punch my navigation system in, I get the little arrow, and it knows exactly where I am. And that's information that doesn't just go away. That stays in the computer in your car. The Internet's obviously the most prolific area to find this information. Instant messenger, social networking sites, chat rooms. One of the things that's amazing about social networking sites, I personally am not, like I said, that into use of the Internet. But in looking up, if you just put in social networking, there's hundreds of thousands of them available. I have a client whose ex-wife met her new fiance on a deer hunting website for social networking. It is Texas, and you know we find people who they meet on dating websites, they meet on hobby websites, people who love shoes. I mean, there's all kinds of social networking. You wouldn't even believe it. So take a look out there, and chat rooms are the same way. There's different topics. You don't have to join, but you're certainly free to get involved in those. An area that's not looked at very often and frankly is not discussed a lot are blogs. The reason I learned out what blogs were is I had a case. The blog was called something to the effect of Single Mom Blues. And it was my client's ex-wife. And she kept a log of what she was doing. She was training for a marathon. She was reconnecting with girlfriends she hadn't seen since high school. All those kinds of things on there. And we were able to trace out by looking at her blog that the weekend she had the kids, she was doing 15-mile runs, going out to parties. She wasn't spending a lot of time with the kids. She was sort of reinventing herself and finding her new persona. And a lot of that involved not wanting to be a primary parent anymore. So while looking at that on its face, it's not necessarily she was out doing anything bad. It's that she wasn't spending time with the children that the other parent could. And I think that's an area where you wonder how you find this information. Use Google. Type in the person's name. You type in your own name. You'd be surprised what comes up. And you know, I played college sports. My college sports are like the 10th thing on there when I pull it up. I mean, I may be younger than some people here, but I've been out of college a long time. And I was pretty surprised to see that come up as one of the top 10 items. So your name, once it gets out there as being part of the Internet, it continues to evolve. And what happens is you put in your name on one website, and then another website carries it, so it regenerates, and what was old becomes new again. And so what's out there is never going away. And what's interesting about the blogs are that there's actually less people using blogs than, say, a Facebook or a MySpace. but the content is much greater. There are approximately 8 to 15 million people who use blogs on a regular basis, and the content is 10 times that what you find on other social networking websites. Cell phones, again, same issue with there are phone logs. We all have subpoenaed cell phone records. The phone logs are helpful. Text messages, emails, the tracking functions, which a lot of people probably have an iPhone. iPhone has several applications that you sign up for, you put in your coordinates, and then if you want to know where one of your friends is, they link to you. It's called, I think the one's called Looped that a lot of my friends use. And basically, you can find the other person. You just turn on your application, you can find that person. And these are applications that, they cost 99 cents. They're on a lot of people's phones. And it's something that a lot of people use, again, maybe for their kids, maybe for some other purpose, but it can be used to find information about your spouse. SIM cards. One thing that I learned, I went to a seminar recently given by forensic experts who talked about how much information your cell phone has. I thought, okay, I deleted that email, it's gone. But your SIM card, that little tiny thing that's smaller than your thumb, actually contains all the information that's ever been on your phone. And the better the technology gets, the better the retention of that information is. And speaking with those experts, they could go multiple days, weeks, and months back on a SIM card to get text messages that were deleted, emails, voicemails. So again, that information is not gone just because it's not on the phone anymore. A topic that is obviously important is employers' property. This has come up in multiple cases where the alleged information, social networking information, or pornographic material is contained on a work computer or work phone. I have never had a judge sustain the objection that it is not within my control. I've never had a judge say that they did not have to produce it. One of the most, I think, useless forms people have is their intake form. They don't ask any good questions. You ask their name, their address, and how much they make and where they work. This is where you should ask the questions about, do they have email addresses? Do they have profiles online? Does their spouse? Do their children? Start the discussion early and say, so do you use the internet? Okay, to what extent? What are you doing on the internet? You're going to understand your case a lot better. And most of the time, if your client comes in prior to there being a filing, you have the opportunity to discuss with them whether or not what they're doing on the internet is appropriate. And if the case has already been filed, there's a whole host of ethical issues relating to deletion and spoliation of evidence. But if the case hasn't been filed, then you can discuss with them, perhaps we need to take a look at your MySpace page and tone back, that what you've been writing on there. Or perhaps you need to take that picture down of you doing 25 shots on your last birthday. Making sure that you are discussing with them early in the case, because I have a real example that, again, sounds made up, but we're at mediation. In Texas, it's mandatory to go to a mediation where attorneys attend. And we're at mediation. Mom's claim is that dad is an unfit parent based upon his Facebook. She has all these pictures, and because it's mediation, we're just looking at these without discussing evidentiary issues. My client mentions for the first time, have you ever looked at her Facebook page? No. I didn't know she had one. I asked you that question. You didn't tell me. You said no. Well, she has one. So we pull it up at mediation. Hers is 10 times worse than his. And you can guess, we resolved the case that day, and we didn't have any further issues with my client's conduct. And I just think it's really important, because we all know that people going through divorces love to throw stones at other people's glass houses, and they forget they're living in one themselves. So make sure you're asking that question, you're starting that conversation early, and you're making sure that if there are people who are relevant, that you are looking into them. And again, it's just using that information that you already have out there, that your clients are aware of, that you're aware of, to really go ahead and find that last bit to solidify your strategy of your case. Again, we talked a little bit early about the skeletons in the closet form. I really encourage all of you to think about this and create something for your own practice that involves these kinds of topics, where you're asking them questions about questions we all hate to ask. So why not put it on a form and ask them to fill it out when they hire you? Why not ask them to tell you about their worst, the worst of their worst, and get that information so, again, you can minimize those issues in their case.